Hey everybody, welcome to today's beta test of our live show, Transform with Dr. Maggie Yu. And I'm Dr. Maggie Yu. I'm an integrative physician focusing on transformations in health. We have a program around transforming autoimmune disease naturally. Today I have with us, I'm going to have two other members of our team introduce themselves right now. And the topic for today is really, what is the role of the missing community in healthcare? And right now, if you can already start looking at the link up posted in the above, you can click the link and you can join the conversation by clicking that link to join us now. I'm going to ask Frankie and then Jacqui from our team to introduce themselves. Frankie?
Hello, everyone. My name is Frankie Niwot, and I am the functional nutritionist on the Transform Autoimmune team. And the topic today of community is one that's near and dear to my heart, so I'm happy to be here to join the conversation.
And next we have Jacqui with us. Jacqui?
Hi, I'm Jacqui Kennemer, and I am the mindset coach for the Transform program, and I'm excited to be here and talk about community today. It's one of our favorite things.
For those of you that are watching live right now, if you can go ahead and give us some comments in the comment section of where you're watching from, some demographics, that would be awesome. And those of you that are joining, go ahead and click the link and you can pop in here and you can join us and ask us questions in a little bit or have some feedback for us as well. And alumni, this is a huge shout out. Any graduates, current members in our program and alumni, if you're watching this right now, please feel free to hop in right now and join this conversation and contribute what your real experience around community is like and what part that played in you getting results in your health. So we're going to start off this conversation right now with just how surprising this really was for Frankie and myself over the past year to really discover that community actually was a missing link, something we didn't even know was an important piece of transformation in health and something as complicated in autoimmune disease. And Frankie, I mean, you've worked a long time as a nutritionist. I mean, tell me what this experience for you is like discovering this role of community in the past year of our program.
Yeah, so when Maggie and I started working together in the clinic environment, we knew that we had some real magic, bringing a doctor and a nutritionist together. But as we really moved into the online program format and being able to bring people together in a much larger community, we saw that there was this whole other level of transformation and possibility in the health environment that we were totally missing out on. And it wasn't until we actually got to see our first group of folks coming through was about 25 people coming through, and seeing them experience community live right in front of us and seeing the magic and that feeling of support that they were having. Maggie and I both were like, oh my gosh, this has been missing all this time.
I agree with you. I mean, and I think for me I think in medical school, when we actually look at how doctors are trained, we're trained to actually deliver one-on-one care in a one-on-one interaction. And in a lot of ways, that's the only way we knew how to interact. And because of that, that's our only experience. I assumed that it was the best way. And I was really actually surprised, which was, as people were graduating on our program, we always asked for feedback. And there were so many comments. Every one of them actually said, it's the community. It's the people I actually went through the program with. It's the people I'm going to have in the alumni group that are going to be supporting me for the rest of my life. That was the best or one of the strongest linchpins for them. I was actually shocked. I mean, when you've never operated in a community, I mean, really healthcare is structured around the silos of one-on-one. And I really think that, especially for dealing with something like autoimmune disease, I think there's so much inherently in autoimmune disease, because a lot of times when you actually look at how autoimmune disease is viewed in the conventional medical world, it seems that your conventional doctors and a lot of you think that autoimmune disease is just an inevitable march towards pain, suffering, and death. And a lot of times people are on the hunt for diagnosis, a lot of times for years or decades. And a lot of times some of you already have a diagnosis. And yet even with a diagnosis, you have a basket load of symptoms that just keeps adding more and more. And you keep going up to doctors and healthcare providers who are really shaking their shoulders. And they're like, I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know how to help you. And I think it really highlights then, it produces a mental state where you think you're like this really, really rare zebra, and that you're the only one with this incurable, awful problem that no one in the world knows how to solve and no one in the world shares. And I think that I think that's a lie. I really do, because I know it's a lie. Because I actually think Maya Angelou has this quote. She says, when, we are more alike than we are disalike, but yet we emphasize how we're disalike in every way in society, including in healthcare. And what I found was that there was so much commonality in something like autoimmune disease or any chronic disease. There's actually so much shared experience that people don't realize that they have so much in common. And there really is a common enemy here, which is the autoimmune attack, right? It doesn't matter in a way what your 3 targets are or 6 targets is, or somebody else has 10 targets and they all are different. You all don't have all these separate siloed zebra problems. It really is the same problem, same common enemy, which is the autoimmune disease.
And I think that there's almost, in some ways, a false sense of community that can happen, or a false sense of a team, when people are shuffling from one specialist to the next, and they're retelling their story over and over again to the next specialist. I think there's a sense that people can get that they do have a community around them, but the thing is that nobody on that team is even communicating with one another. So they're remaining isolated in their journey because they don't really have any cooperation amongst their practitioners trying to figure out a plan or a solution for them. We hear that so often, this shuffle, from one practitioner to the next, and how much time and energy people are spending doing that.
Jacqui?
Yeah, I think in my experience on the calls with people as they come into the program, one of the most common words spoken is alone. So they feel alone in their journey, even with the doctors, like you're talking about, Frankie, even with the teams, there's still this feeling of isolation or not being understood. And I also hear a lot of people say they're told that there's nothing wrong with them, that they're just tired, or they just need to go rest, or take this pill and you'll feel better. But that doesn't cure the aloneness, that doesn't bring them answers. And so they come in really with this sense of like relief almost, that they have some people to connect with that speak their language. So community is big because there's a language that we all share now as we move forward.
Yeah, I think from those of you that are watching right now, if you can say hi in the comment section, I'd love to know who in our community is actually watching right now. And then if you're an alumni or a graduate in our program, please say hi. And those of you that are joining us, please feel free to click that link and join us right now so we can be part of this conversation face-to-face with us. I would love that. And highlights exactly the point we're talking about, which is that it's the connection, it's the connectedness between people and the universe that's really important for us to actually harness the power of many. And yet to me, I have this example where, think about this, if Godzilla comes into a village and you got a bunch of villagers in town square, right? And if every single villager saw Godzilla and just said, oh my God, this is a super special problem. I have a super special secret recipe and sagebush or eyeball soup, whatever it is, I gotta deal with this situation, the sitchy right here. They're gonna run and scatter into their home, into their backyard, they're digging up stuff, they're collecting sage. What's gonna happen? This common enemy, which is huge, which is autoimmune disease, which is this monstrous healthcare system that we're in, is really impossible to solve. And Godzilla comes in and literally destroys the whole town and village while everyone is scattering, doing all the things of trying because they think this is a super special problem and they got a super special solution to this problem. One thing, right? So they're all scattered. What would it be like if Godzilla came into town, autoimmune disease came into town, and everybody stayed there in the town square, looked at each other and said, we got a common problem. We got a common enemy. We can actually, the power of many, we can actually harness the power, the support, just the camaraderie of having people around us. What do you think is the likelihood that these villagers are going to be able to deal with Godzilla? What do you think is the likelihood that a community of people rising up against autoimmune disease, chronic disease, or an inadequate healthcare system, what would be the power of harnessing many of that into dealing with a problem like autoimmune disease? And by what people have said coming into this program and dealing with this program, this is a completely different experience than they have ever experienced in their life.
We see so much of this, especially, you know, when we're really trying to give people this power of coming together and allow them to not only experience it, but then also to kind of grow from that place. You know what, it feels like we get to see them over this 8-week journey as they do come together and they do see the camaraderie, they feel that connection with others. And then they're also seeing and watching people ahead of them in the program grow. They're also seeing people side by side with them grow. So I feel like we really harness that power of community and mentorship throughout the program as well. So people are able to experience mentorship from us, from the coaches, Jacqui and I, and Dr. Maggie, but then they're also realizing that they have mentorship in one another as well. We have some friends joining us.
I love the fact there's a lot of people jumping in right now already into our green room. So you guys can do that right now. Just click the link that you're seeing on the post. Come in and join our green room and join this conversation. Whether you're an alumni and you want to share your experience of what community meant for you and what that experience was like, or you're someone who wants that community and has questions about how do you actually build that for you, I would love for you to come in and join us right now. So we just recently did an interview with that some of you might have seen with Kim Kaiser. And Frankie, you had that experience with Kim, and it was a very pivotal moment. And I'd love for you to tell us your experience of what that moment was like for Kim.
Yes, Kim is a wonderful example of exactly how isolating and how personal, especially the subject of nutrition, can be for people. You know, we all have what I call our history, or our suitcase that we bring along with us in our diet and our diet choices. And I think that it's such a, you know, it's the longest relationship we ever have is our relationship with food. And so as people come into the program, and Kim is a great example of this, you know, she came into the program really feeling like food was something that she had tried to change, that she had, you know, battled with dieting and yo-yo dieting over the years, and that nothing had ever really stuck. And there was this really pivotal moment on a call one day where she was just being able to be extremely vulnerable, to share, you know, that she was a drive-through, what does she call herself? I think a drive-through Sally, or a donut lover. And she came into the program, she was like, and this has just been something that's been this long battle that she had been dealing with. And just to see the people in the community rise up in the call and say, me too, I too have struggled. I too have, you know, had these issues around food or changing my diet. I too have struggled with, you know, making these big shifts. And you could just see it in her face, you know, this feeling of almost relief, this feeling like that she could do it, because she was actually seeing the example of so many people around her that were also doing it as well.
Jacqui, what is your experience like when you actually talk to some of the people that you on these mindset calls with people about what is their reaction with being in a community?
Oh my goodness, it's life-changing for them. Like I said before, because they felt so alone, they come into this gathering of small community, and everyone's saying things that make sense with one another, and we get on these calls and we talk about some really intimate things. Like, we have a lot of things happening in our life, and when we're able to share that in this community, it's that thing of I'm no different than the other person. And you touched on that earlier. Like, oh my goodness, like, I'm not an anomaly. I'm not crazy. And all these people are going through this too. And it's like this instant, it almost happens magically and quickly, this bonding, you know, of connection. And yeah, I remember being on the call with Kim and talking through some things with her dad that she shared on her interview that she did. And it was just a beautiful transformation by becoming vulnerable, like owning her power, not in only in the sense of feeling safe in community, but then being able to launch into her life and take herself on in a more powerful way with that support of community, you know, and acceptance and encouragement. So,
I recently, one of my favorite musicals is Dear Evan Hansen. And one of the most powerful numbers in there is about how you're not alone. And there's so much power in it. I actually really feel like in the age of technology, social media, that you think is actually fostering connectedness, we're actually in a society where so much of that is actually helping us feel less and less connected and more isolated. And so it was really interesting to hear Kim's interview where she's talking about how that connectedness with this community in dealing with autoimmune disease transformed into a connectedness that she was able to feel and generate with a parent that she's been struggling with her entire life. And it was able to transform their relationship to the next level where she actually could be real now and be honest and not only heal her body, but she's healing the dis-ease within her mind and in her relationships. Go ahead, Jacqui.
Yeah, I think just the mindset work piece is huge, as we've learned, traveling with these people we've worked with. A lot of people don't think mindset is that big of a deal. A lot of people don't even know what mindset means. And so when they come into this program, that's one of the first conversations I get to have with them one-on-one is, how is your mindset? Do you even know what that means? And how are you showing up in your life? And why are you here? And what do you want to create? And what are you bringing to the table to create that with? These are powerful questions and powerful thoughts. So, yeah.
Jacqui, I love that because really, I think the quality of your life is really dictated with the quality of the questions you ask. Mm-hmm. And not just you ask yourself, but I also think you ask of your community. And if you don't have any of other people you could bring into your community, right? What I want to do is I want to talk about those of you that are watching right now. Please click the link to come in and join our green room to join this conversation live. You can ask us the question live and get an answer face to face. This is about community. This is about connection and engagement. So please feel free to jump in right now. And alumni, anybody that's been through our program and is currently in our program, please jump in right now so you can actually tell people what having a community really is like. We have Jacqueline here, and she's right now currently going through our program. And I would love, Jacqueline, if you feel comfortable, would you like to share a little bit about your experience or an instance or some moment or a story about why community matters for you, or did it?
Absolutely. Before I joined the program, I was basically living in my own little world of fear. I isolated so much, and I didn't know I was even doing it. Every day I was avoiding people. And I had explained, I had my first call with Jacqui, and I realized how much I was hiding from everybody and myself. And it became a horrible way to live and very lonely. And it was just this bowl of anxiety that I couldn't break through. I don't know if I would have ever got better because I was just living in fear of the next minute of each day and not telling anybody. So this opened not only myself, but I was able to open up to this amazing group of people that actually understood me. And we connected immediately. I mean, there's groups of us, they're like my lifeline. We talk every day. There is nothing I can't tell them, whether it's personal, whether it's physical. And, we could just bounce back. We feed off of each other now. And it's helped me grow. I mean, when I'm down, one of them are up. And so then they could lift me up, and vice versa. We keep pulling each other up. So if one's having a bad day, the other one who's having a better day can now help that one. So we're using each other's strength, and it's absolutely amazing. And it's free. I have freedom again. I don't have to live in fear. I've seen my anxiety go from constant panic attacks to no panic attacks at all. Like I could drive again. I couldn't drive before the program because of fear. So it's a big...
Let me ask you this, Jacqueline. I mean, it sounds to me like there was like this whole, how many of us with autoimmune disease are dealing with anxiety, right? And have dealt with sometimes crippling anxiety or even panic attacks, right? What I'm hearing though from you is that this is a tool that you didn't even know to ask for. I mean, this is unexpected that this was became such a powerful tool.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't realize I needed that help and that camaraderie and that it's almost like a daily hug. You're constantly getting nurturing from other people that understand you. And you didn't realize you were missing that. Your soul needs that. And it gives you that little oomph to keep going and to try again. And tomorrow can be better. And it works. It works tremendously. It's such a big part that I didn't get from anywhere else.
I agree. I mean, and that was a surprise to me. I mean, I don't know if you missed at the beginning of this, but I was shocked at how powerful the role of community really is. Like, who would think I have crippling anxiety or I have severe autoimmune disease, and having a supportive group of people, kick-ass people around me, is actually one of the tools, and in fact, maybe the most powerful tool to actually stop this.
Yeah.
That sounds unreal.
As you know, I was going through also a lot of life issues. My father was very sick with cancer. He just passed last week. And having this community, I'm doing well. I mean, I'm grieving, but I really feel like I have the ability to pull through and not let it physically, like it would have, I think. I've learned to be grateful. I've had the chance to rewrite my story with all this mindset work, and it's just changed my perspective. It's such a healthier way of living, so, and the support here has just been amazing.
Can I ask you, like you mentioned the tools, and that's huge for us, is those tools that we actually use to help people change the way that they think. And you mentioned rewriting your story.
Yeah.
Can I ask you how that, it sounds simple, but how did that change things for you and your perspective, and how you're looking forward right now?
Well, one particular story was about, my dad getting sick so quick, and I was angry, very angry, scared, and, and I sat down and I started to think about being grateful for feeling so much love from my father. I got to go back, instead of being so angry about what was happening to him, how lucky am I to have such strong feelings and a connection to him? So I was able to go back. You taught me how to go back, and instead of being angry and feeling like a victim, I'm sorry, my baby's, Juliet, sorry, the baby's up. Instead of being so angry about it, I became grateful for what I had with him. And it definitely helped my healing process. I could look back now, instead of being mad at the situation, I could look back and be happy about who I am and my father and all the upbringing I had. And it's a great way to live going forward, instead of living in this anger that I had.
That totally resonates with me. Like, for me, I too struggled a lot with some anger issues towards my mom, right? But one of the things, Jacqueline, I recognized for me was, had she been the mother that I wanted her to be, I actually wouldn't be the person that I am today.
Exactly.
She gave me the opportunity to actually grow these legs that I needed to grow, to actually live the life that I need to now. So in a way, I'm really extremely grateful and thankful for her being the exact mother that she was to me. I think I chose her. I think I chose her pre-womb.
I think so too. You were handpicked, my dear.
Thank you. Jacqui, you have to
I just want to point out what Jacqueline said is really powerful, in that she went from a place of being reactive to intentional in a very critical time in her life. And she could have missed all of that. She made an active choice in rewriting her story. She took action and chose to be intentional with her dad and create memories in time.
Yeah.
That is, you gave yourself a tremendous gift, Jacqueline.
You guys helped me get that gift. I wouldn't have been able to do the things I did and have those talks with him that I had to have, and be able to hear his last wishes and give him the strength to tell him it's okay to go, and all the hard things that I knew I had to do became doable. It hurts. It's hard. I'm not trying to, negate that at all. I'm in pain, but I'm able to keep going. So.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I know that, Marta, you're here and you're in the green room with us too. And Marta, you're currently in our program as well. I'm curious what your experience of community has been. And you're an integrative dietitian, so you're also a healthcare provider. And so I'd love to hear what your reflection as you're going through this program is.
Yeah, sure. So the community was huge. It was probably everything was great, but it was kind of up there on the top level with everything else. Community especially with autoimmune and mystery diseases and mystery illnesses, people don't believe you sometimes, really. You tell them what's wrong and they kind of look at you like you have two heads, or that you're making it up, or, or you're just one of those holistic, especially because I'm a dietitian, right? Those woo-woo holistic practitioners. And, they just think you're crazy sometimes. And it's very lonely. And even family, it's hard to describe, what's wrong with you? Oh, I've got this, and this. Oh, okay. Well, are you better yet? No. So having other people to soundboard symptoms and just experiences and not feel so lonely is so stellar and critical for this type of illness. And so that's what I feel like I have. I feel like I have a whole new group of friends and colleagues that I can just bounce ideas off of. And also going down that rabbit hole of chasing symptoms. We talk a lot about chasing symptoms and not just thinking, oh no, I have another disease, or oh no, what about this? What about that? Because the mind can just go, off the deep end. And it's having another friend to say, stop, wait, you need to look at the data, look for facts. Do you have any facts to back this up? No. So stop worrying about it. And also in the realm of being a nutritionist, a registered dietitian in holistic integrative health for many, many years, it's, root cause is something I've always believed in. And unfortunately, practitioners, you go to practitioners and they will pick on their favorite, whatever it is, illness. Maybe it's Lyme disease, or if you tell them you got bit by a tick, they go down the Lyme disease path, but they never really look at all the pieces of the pie. And that's what Maggie, you and Frankie and everyone else on your team look at the pie, all the little pieces that fit together. And no one's really done that with me. Sure, they said, oh, you have some hormone things, but let's work on this first. So we kind of work on everything at the same time here. So it's really helped me to help my patients too.
So Marta, you brought up a couple really good points. I think that because we actually, as autoimmune disease patients, have a basket load of symptoms and we're being treated like unsolvable zebras, we really feel alone. And not only that, we don't feel believed when we go into the medical profession. I actually think, and as a medical provider, I know this because I was part of this, right? Until I became one of you with autoimmune disease, and I was one of those people with the mystery illness, I didn't really fully understand the depths of this. There truly is two biases that I think it's important to point out. I think number one, there's a huge bias of doctors against things they can't diagnose. Number one. So then that's a bias. So if there's something they can't diagnose and they can't really put a quick Band-Aid to, it's really common for us doctors to dismiss, poo-poo, and pass you off to my colleague. The second bias that happens, I think there actually is a bias against women. And I actually think when you look at the statistics of autoimmune disease, 80% of autoimmune disease sufferers are women. And you all already know why. Yes. It's a big missing link. People don't understand the role of hormones in triggering autoimmune disease. So 80% of autoimmune disease sufferers are women. And it's so easy to label a woman coming into your medical practice with 10 symptoms as crazy or having anxiety, or she's depressed, or she's exaggerating. I think if the same thing where it was a man walking in, I think we're, as a medical profession and as the society at large, we're way less likely to dismiss that person. And so I also think that it's the face of the majority of sufferers of autoimmune disease being women that I think it elicits another bias. And hey, it's not because we're evil or we're bad that we have bias. I think bias is really a normal human thing we all do, because most of us take very few pieces of information and make a generalized conclusion about a person really quickly. And the truth of the matter is, though, when it comes to something health related like autoimmune disease, we as sufferers with autoimmune disease are the ones who are paying the price for it. So I think it's really important for us all aware that there's a bias out there. And that's one of the reasons why we feel so isolated. And there isn't a community around this, because we literally feel alone, dismissed, and unvalidated. Can anyone speak to that experience? and what your experience is. I'm talking about this as a healthcare provider. So anybody as a patient who's, Marta, go ahead, let's talk about this. As you as a patient, what that's like, and your experience is what I'm saying true.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And I think I expressed that a little bit in my own story of hopping from doctor to doctor and having one doctor say to me, I think I mentioned this last night, if it's something really bad, it will show up. And that was like 2 years ago, right? That's not really encouraging. And where do you go? What kind of support do you get if you really don't know what the root cause is there? And then just another real life example right now, I'm working with a patient who has a list this long of really intense symptoms like mast cell activation and interstitial cystitis, and she cannot find a doctor that really has experience, and she has it's actually documented Lyme disease through testing, like terrible neurological things. It just goes on, and she just can't find anyone that really gets it.
Right. So this whole wait, I mean, Martha, that's another point, is you talking about this whole wait and see.
Yeah.
What did the doctor say? You said, if it's serious, we'll eventually know about it.
It'll eventually show up. Yep.
Okay. Well, okay. Meaning you're going to tell someone, you have cancer. It'll eventually show up.
Yeah.
Is this how we really want to be dealing with the lives of people?
No way.
Right. Jacqueline, you just had an experience with we talked about the other night, your monthly experience to the ER. I want you to talk about that. What is that like, as far as you feeling like you're so alone and crazy?
Oh God, it's horrible because I was petrified. I mean, I'm having symptoms that were neurological, very real. My face is numb. Sometimes my leg would be numb. I couldn't walk. I couldn't hold my baby. And then I was getting major pressure in my head and tingling, and the one side of my head, I couldn't take the pressure anymore. And then, when your face goes numb, you kind of think you should get some help or get checked out. That would be the normal thing to do, right? But, every time I went, I'm crazy because they do a CAT scan, and then they do this. Eventually, like, I went with a numb face and major vertigo, and my diagnosis was giddiness. Giddiness is what I was diagnosed with. So it was, and they come in the room, oh, she's perfectly healthy. And John would go, yeah, I know. She's a healthy specimen. Let's go, babe. Like, it's beyond, not only it's embarrassing, you're in fear, of course, made my anxiety, because where do I go for help? That should be where I go for an emergency. And knowing that I have nowhere to go, it became this horrible nightmare, vicious cycle. And I can't tell you how many times it was constant every month. And then I noticed my own patterns. I started looking at the date, and it was like, wait a minute, it's the same day of my menstrual cycle every single month. I'm in the ER. So I put my own patterns together, but they didn't want to hear it. You heard me.
Well, of course, but I think that there's so many patterns on autoimmune disease that people are missing. Yeah. Frankie, go ahead. Frankie has something to add.
Might want to pop up the lower third.
I want to echo what Jacqueline's saying, that this is a really scary question. Where do we go when our doctors and our practitioners and our specialists don't have the answers, and they don't have guidance, and they are not, even more than that, they're dismissing us. And so I think, one of the tenets of the program and what we try to do in working with people is really, how do we have a conversation with our practitioners? How do we take what we're learning in community, what we're learning, and really bring it to the table in a conversation? And I think that this is how we create demand. Right? If we don't create a demand for something different in healthcare, it's never going to happen. But with the first thing first is how to have that conversation in the first place. And I am so proud to know all of the people that have graduated from our program are out there demanding something different, demanding something new and revolutionary in healthcare to really move this conversation forward.
Yeah. Well, now I just wouldn't take it. I'm not going to, I used to take it. I'm not going to take in a diagnosis of giddiness. Stop and let's have a real conversation. Let's talk. That's just how it's going to be. I'm not allowing that anymore. I was scared and I let it happen because I didn't know better. I didn't know how to have a conversation. And now I feel empowered. Now I want help. And if you can't get me the help, that's fine. But let's talk sensibly about this. That's how
Thank you. Frankie?
And I just love it too. It's because you can feel the fire in the group, you know, when one person starts to talk about, oh, I went to my doctor and I had this conversation, you know, you can feel the fire building in the group because everybody's like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that too. I'm going to make an appointment right now. You know, it's like, and you feel that is just something that is growing and it feels like a movement that's starting, and it's really exciting to be a part of it.
You know, I want to bring on Jennifer. You're in the green room, and you're in the program right now as well. And so, I mean, tell me, what is a moment in the program, or what is in the program that you felt was like a total game changer for you that really involved being part of a community?
As far as being a part of the community, having the meetings with my pod, having that time with just your core group of people that you start the program with. It's been amazing. I'm just shocked at how quickly you reveal your true self. I'm one to really be very reserved and hold back. And because you share such common things as far as what you've gone through with your health, it makes it easier to really open up about some of those emotional things that kind of hold you back, or your stinking thinking that you might have, and your pod can kind of encourage you or maybe even call you out on how you're thinking and kind of redirect you, which is amazing.
I love that. And so this has been a major game changer for you. And it sounds like from what you were writing in here, there's all these ER visits, being labeled as having anxiety. This is such a common journey for people with autoimmune disease. If there's nothing else right now you're going to get from this, you can already see just from the people on here that you're not alone. There's literally millions of you out there, but no one's connecting the dots, and none of you are connecting to each other. That's the problem in dealing with autoimmune disease, and this is why people are staying sick.
I agree. I also think too that a lot of groups that you see on Facebook or just anywhere online related to autoimmune disease, people are stuck in the victim, I'm sick mode. And when you focus on I'm sick, then that's what you're going to be. You're going to be sick. And so what I love about this program is that we focus also on the wins and what's going right and what's improved for you, and really having a forward kind of mode of thinking instead of that stuck point of I'm so sick.
Yep. It's repetition. And that's one of the things I talk about is that it's so interesting. People are always busy describing where they're at right now, the suffering they're at, and then the journey that brought them here. So it's repeatedly giving yourself the message of looking in the rearview mirror over and over again. And to me, the kind of repetition that we do now is so different, which is, what is the power of manifestation? What is the power of repeating, future pacing, who the heck you want to be with a bunch of kick-ass people, right? That faith and repetition, Marilyn Janet talks about over and over in her book, Feel Free to Prosper. To me, that's exactly what it takes to invite, manifest, and to prosper moving forward. And you got to stop the repetition of the victimhood, the expression of where you're at right now and where you were. And yet, most of the communities, quote unquote, around autoimmune disease and medical diagnosis is around repeating the same story, the same suffering, and repeating the past and repeating the suffering right now over and over again and manifesting the same shit. Mm-hmm. And to me, what is it? I love the fact that we're rising. We're rising here to create a different kind of community, one that uses data, one that uses the support of other people with similar thinking patterns to actually help you over and over again manifest what's coming forward.
Before you make them live, you can switch to.
Yep.
Exactly right. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jennifer. Tracy has graduated from our program. I think it's been 6 or 8 months, Tracy. And I mean, and you had a really difficult diagnosis. Talk about a zebra, right? And people want to hear, is this sustainable? What is the role of community now that you're 8 months out of the program? Can I get your feedback on this, Tracy? Oops, you're muted still.
First of all, it's going to be almost a year now,
So now that
which is
going,
amazing.
put on the Facebook, but I don't know
I
why
really can
it's
relate to everything because for 5 years, I went to specialist on specialist and nothing was wrong. And I was
so we can
not
do that.
walking. I could hardly get in and out of a car.
If that
But
pulls over,
anyway, I think
if it
community
doesn't,
is unbelievable. And
switch back
I look
to
forward
the
to my
automatic.
weekly calls because
Maybe
not everybody had the same thing. I had really rare issues.
Refresh.
But it was also good to get together and talk to them every week and twice
See,
a
if
week
comment
and
shows up here, then
share our
I'm pushing
stories and our
live by
support and our
clicking here and
wins.
pushing live.
And I think what's created from
I was
those,
trying to get
that
this
community
comment to
is
show
now
up.
sub-communities.
It's not showing up
I
for
mean,
some reason.
I have people contact me all the
So I'm gonna
time,
switch
and
back
I'm
to
creating more
there.
groups and more communities just for information
I'll
now,
switch back
which
to the regular
is
one.
unbelievable.
I don't like clicking push live.
So not only did we have our own community
when
through
I
you
need to
and like the
make sure that
Facebook page and
something
the alumni
looks
group,
right
and
before it's live.
I've gotten so many more friends just through this program,
So
and
back
it's
last
really
week, you can do that
really a
while
neat
you're live.
way to heal, I think.
Tracy, what I want to do is anybody watching right now, please click the link and jump in and join us right now in the conversation live face to face. This is part of being a part of a community. Join us right now. Click the link. Now, Tracy, I mean, that's really interesting you point out because we've interviewed you before, and your video interview with us has been seen thousands and thousands of times. You've become a leader and a mentor to many people dealing with crazy ass autoimmune diseases. Tell me about your shift in role since you've left our program.
Well, my shift is now trying to convince others to get on board and fight for themselves and say that it's not just, don't go to your one specialist here or that specialist, do the whole picture. Eat better. I mean, I'm trying to get people, even my husband, I'm trying to get him to eat 100% rather than just 20%. There's so many more, and people come to me for advice, and I know I'm not a doctor and I'm not a nurse, I'm not a nutritionist, but I've learned so much in this program and the resources and the community that we can share with each other that people actually come to me now and say, I'm stuck. What do I do? Help me. And I'm just trying to give them the best advice I can because I'm living proof that it works.
I love what you said also about sub-communities because I feel like we're unleashing an army, Tracy. You guys are armed and you're dangerous. And I mean, because what I've noticed is that, you know, what people tell me and what I've personally experienced in these regular Facebook groups is really a lot of fear, a lot of victimhood, a lot of trolls, a lot of fake snake oil salesmen selling their stuff and scaring the crap out of you. That is not support and that's not a community. It really is like this depressing state of confusion and overwhelm that keeps people there. So for me, like, I love the fact that we have a Facebook group. Those of you who haven't joined it, please join Transform Autoimmune Disease Naturally now and join a community. But the sub-community is also people in our program. When you're in our program, you're in your own Facebook group. When you're done with our program, you join our alumni group. And everyone in the alumni group has been through our program and through this mindset work, through this sharing of this community. So you can trust actually the people that you're in this community with. Mm-hmm. And this idea that I would love to hear more. When you tell me sub-community, can you tell me one sub-community that you're part of and what kind of change, what's the difference with having this? Why have this? I'd love to hear about one of those sub-communities.
Well, one group I started my own little private Facebook group because I have a lot of people in my area who aren't diagnosed with anything. They're feeling sick. So of course I decided to share some of my knowledge and recipes and other things, and they want to keep it private. I'm going to start my own blog now because I have so many people saying, you need to help, you need to do this. But again, I'm, like you say, are you a superstar? No, we're just people trying to stay healthy. Now that we've turned our lives around, I mean, there's no cure as the doctors tell us, but I'll tell you, it's really fun to live a normal life again. And I think these sub-communities that we've created from your program is going to spread even more.
Oh, thank you, Tracy. That's awesome. Marta just had a comment. Everybody talks about program. Everybody talks about their special supplement or medication for autoimmune disease. Marta, I mean, you're an integrated dietitian. So you had just made a comment about what you think of programs. Go ahead.
Great. Yeah. So there's so many different avenues. Some just are mindset work, you know, and there's some good things out there like tapping, right? That's great. But then there's this doctor and they have the full, you know, autoimmune gut solution, and this doctor and this doctor. But I really don't think I know they don't. None of these look at these, the big picture and these little pieces, like I call pieces of the pie. When I look at your little, the little diagram that you have, that's the pie. And I love pie, by the way. And, and the micronutrient deficiencies. I mean, people are walking around with these micronutrient deficiencies and they're not really addressed in any of these programs. And even by doctors. So this one patient that I mentioned that I'm working with, her vitamin D is like 18 or something like that, or 21, I don't know. And the doctor really didn't say too much, like, oh, take a supplement, but no one really links those things like you link those things.
You know what it is, Marta, for me, is the whole question of what the hell is normal. I actually feel like this is a huge problem. How many of you had labs? How many of you are bringing me a bucket load of labs and saying, I have a bucket load of labs and they're all normal? And can you figure out what's wrong? Can you look through those and tell me what's wrong? And the truth of the matter is that I think it's what the hell are we calling normal? Because I think there's really a big language problem, a big semantics problem in the medical community. We're training doctors that quote unquote, whatever the normal lab range says is normal, is optimal. And that is absolutely not optimal when you're dealing with something like autoimmune disease. Frankie, you have a comment about that.
I just wish that we could change that language to, like, instead of asking if your labs are normal, like, what is your quality of life? Right? Like, nobody's asking those questions. Nobody's saying, what is your quality of life? How's your day to day? How are you able to interact with your families or the people in your life? You know, nobody is taking the time that it really takes to unpack quality of life. And I think that, you know, what Marta is saying in the pie, you know, all the pieces, we're unpacking quality of life piece by piece. And, you know, to be able to really see that come to life in people is amazing, because that's what we're fighting for. That is the fight, right? To have quality of life. And I think that really being realistic, it's like, we're not talking necessarily about cures. We're not talking about cures. We're talking about, how do we have quality of life? How do we live and be able to be the people that we dreamed that we would be? Right? And if those are the questions that were being asked, we would be having such a different state of healthcare right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I totally agree. We actually have quite a bit of comments from Facebook. We have Jacinta, and I love Jacinta. And Jacinta was actually previous, you know, was someone we've known before. And she comments about how her experiences matches so many people with autoimmune disease, how people aren't taking care of her, taking her seriously. We were talking about bias earlier. And part of her feeling alone was that she wasn't being taken seriously. And it wasn't until she collapsed that she was actually, she wrote in her comment that she was actually finally taken seriously. Do we have to collapse to actually be taken seriously? And yet the symptoms that Jacinta is talking about in her comments is the kind of symptoms we're all experiencing. All of us with autoimmune disease have one of the symptoms that she's describing, or many of them. And what does it really take, to the extent that it takes, is do we have to collapse before we're being taken seriously? And, you know, and community is a huge piece, I mean, of this, is that what was it like talking about your symptoms and your experience and having these aha moments, you know, in a group, in a community? And Jacqueline just mentioned, and I'm going to bring you back on, you said something about how it's almost like you have a fail-safe system when you actually meet with people in your pod and in your community. Can you tell me about that, Jacqueline?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I apologize.
You mentioned in a comment right here that being part of this community is like a fail-safe for you guys. Can you explain to me what that means?
Because you know, you'll notice, and I'll notice really quickly, if someone is starting to go back to their old mindset. If you start seeing them go backwards a little bit, just in their mindset, and so quickly, it's like I jump on it. I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you go back there. And we catch each other before it even happens. You know, we don't let each other fall backwards. Oh, I'm seeing you go there. Let's regroup. Let's troubleshoot. Let's go one at a time. And I mean, it's literally holding each other's hands, picking each other up one day at a time. And it's amazing. It's amazing.
to me, that highlights kind of the 3 things we do in our program that really fosters community. And this is new. I mean, this is from feedback that we had, from early in the program. We really started saying, what are the things that really it takes to actually foster community? And we really figured out it was 3 things. And number 1 is you need a safe space to be real and be you. And all of you just alluded to that. I mean, and somebody just said, I don't know how, oh my gosh, I can't believe how quickly your mindset coach, Jacqui, caught my number. Nothing escapes our mindset coach, Jacqui. It's true. We all showed up real in the safe space, and it's so amazing how quickly we all got each other's number, and I do, Frankie does, and our mindset coach, and each other, right? So safe space is number 1. Number 2, what to me is really mentorships. Being able to actually be a part of a community where you have quality mentorship. And that's in the coaches, like in Frankie, myself, Jacqui, but the mentorship of people in the program. One of the structure of a program that I really love, and maybe you guys could give feedback on later, is that you're in a program with people where some people are 2 weeks ahead of you, 4 weeks ahead of you, 8 weeks ahead of you. You have alumni like Tracy Rupp, who's a year ahead of you. And you actually see the progress that these people are making at week 2, week 6, week 8. And that level of mentorship from watching their changes, their challenges, their solutions is incredibly uplifting. And it's a huge part to me of mentorship in a community, right? And then number 3 was what we provide is actually small pod meetings where you meet with a couple other people in your community on a regular basis going through our program every single week. And Jacqueline, you're saying that being part of a smaller group is really a huge fail-safe. Accountability is how we create friendships for life as well, right? So these 3 are really important, which is safe space, which is mentorship, and which is, number 3 is small group. Small group is really cool. Don't laugh, everybody. And everybody knows I talk in 3s too. So, Frankie, come on.
I just love it. I love the success that we've seen. And Tracy was just saying, we didn't have the mindset coach when I was in the program. We didn't have the pods when I was in the program. And so these are things that we're always listening to the community. I think is a big part of what, the most important jobs that Maggie and I have are to listen to what you guys need more of and to be able to really to bring that and continue to develop the program. The pods have been amazing. These small group interactions, this ongoing, to be able to tap into people on a day-to-day basis if you need them, to be able to know that you have a weekly meeting coming up where you're going to be able to talk about your goals, talk about your progress. I mean, these things are really transforming the power of community in the program.
And I love the fact that you guys know I talk in 3s. And you guys know I'm a goof. And you always know to fill in the 3rd one when I forget. And that's what I mean by safe space. We're all so real, and we all got each other's numbers so fast. We all are each other's fail-safe, including me. You guys are a huge community of support for me. I love the generosity of all of you here that have come on and engaged with us. This is our last beta test before we actually launch our live show in March. So in March, twice a month on Mondays at 4:30 Pacific Standard Time, we are going to have our show Transform with Dr. Maggie Yu. We are going to be interviewing, we're going to be on some of these lives. We're also going to be interviewing experts in many areas around health, mindset, physical health. And the format is this, which is you get to click on a link above, you get to RSVP, you come in, and you get to ask. Imagine asking an expert you've always wanted to talk to the question face-to-face live and getting an answer. That's exactly what it's going to be. So in March, we're going to be launching our show. Our next show coming up is going to be actually on Monday. And the show is really, we're going to actually, on that show, we're going to start with, I think alumni and people who've gone through our program, and we're really actually going to pull the curtains back and be able to say, what is it really like behind the scenes? And what is it really like to work on a program that's really all about transformation? And today really was about one piece, which is the community. And that's just one piece and one tool. So I really want to thank you, all of you, for coming into our green room and engaging in this conversation. None of this is pre-planned. It's all live, which is what I love. And you guys are just incredibly generous. And I'm so grateful and thankful for this community. And I invite all of you that are watching to be part of our community. Join our Facebook group and engage with us. If you haven't watched our training about what our program is about, go to drmaggieu.com. We have a training about the pie, the famous Marta pie that we keep talking about, which is all the pillars of our program. What are the triggers that it actually you need to deal with to stop feeding autoimmune disease? So thank you so much for watching. And I'm going to have all of you unmute and say goodbye to our audience here. And I want to thank you everyone for being part of the show.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. We love you.
You guys. See you later.
See you later, alligator.